where the police are in pursuit of a fugitive named Yusuke Hibisawa. In an attempt to evade capture, Yusuke takes an innocent girl as a hostage and threatens her life. However, he suddenly experiences severe chest pain and collapses, resulting in his death. Elsewhere, the Deputy Director of Foreign Affairs walks out of his office, only to find himself surrounded by the media. The reporters start flooding him with several allegations and questions, but before he can respond, he collapses and dies, just like Yusuke. In similar ways, a sequence of unexplained deaths takes place in the city, all of which involve criminals. As the frequency of these deaths increases, certain religious groups interpret them as the divine retribution of God against sinners. Meanwhile, the public is divided regarding the cause of these deaths, with many believing that an individual known as Kira is responsible. Some support his actions, while others view him as nothing more than a criminal. One evening, a breaking news bulletin captures the attention of the crowd. The reporter announces that a man named Hiromichi Imaizumi has broken into a financial company and is currently holding individuals hostage. Amidst the throng of people, there is a man named Light Yagami who, upon hearing the news, takes out his notebook and writes Hiromichi's name in it. Moments later, the reporter shockingly announces that Hiromichi has died. Some of the hostages claim that he collapsed after experiencing sudden chest pain. All these criminals have to stop eating McDonald's. Following this, the movie cuts back to a few weeks earlier. Light hacks into the Japanese police website and learns that all cases of wanted criminals are being closed. To confirm his suspicions, he goes to a local bar where he overhears one of the criminals admitting that the police have released him and no one can incarcerate him now. Hearing this, Light becomes distraught and he starts losing faith in the nation's legal system. One rainy night, he comes across a mysterious-looking notebook named Death Note and takes it with him. Upon reaching home, he reads the first page, which states that whoever's name is written in the notebook will die. As expected, Light doesn't take it seriously and assumes it to be a joke. He then turns on the TV and sees the news of a murderer who has been causing havoc as of late. For the fun of it, Light nonchalantly scribbles the murderer's name on the notebook. The next morning, while having breakfast, he reads the newspaper and gets shocked to learn about the murderer's sudden and inexplicable death. But despite this, Light remains skeptical and believes it to be a mere coincidence. Later on, as he is strolling down the street, he comes across the same criminal he had seen in the local bar before. In order to verify his assumptions, Light writes the criminal's name in the death note while observing him from the opposite side of the road. Much to his surprise, the criminal immediately experiences chest pain and dies. This finally convinces Light of the notebook's extraordinary capabilities, and he proceeds to read all of its rules carefully. According to its rules, the notebook works only if the writer can visualize the person's face in their mind. Additionally, if the cause of death is not specified within 40 seconds of writing the person's name, they will die of McDonald's. That night, Light is walking back home when he encounters the God of Death, who introduces himself as Ryuk. It is revealed that only those who touch the death note can see him. Initially, Light is terrified to see the scary figure and asks if he has come for the book, but Ryuk promises that he means no harm. He then explains that Light can use the book as many times as he wants to. Hearing this, our protagonist becomes determined to create a world without crime, where the righteous will be celebrated and the wicked will cower in fear. Yes, says Ryuk. At the present time, the police are still investigating the mysterious deaths that have been occurring, but so far they have no leads on the so-called Law Lord, Kira. Hence, they turn to a mysterious figure known only as L for help. L communicates with the cops via a laptop and suspects that Kira is from Japan and is committing these crimes on his own. So, he comes up with a plan. L, with permission from the police, uses a fugitive criminal to challenge Kira through a live broadcast. The plan works, and when Light watches the broadcast, he becomes enraged at the criminal's insulting words. Hence, he quickly writes down his name in the death note, causing the criminal to die instantly. Following this incident, the real voice of L appears on the live broadcast, and he explains that the whole thing was a trap set to narrow down Kira. He reveals that the conference was broadcast exclusively in Japan, and now the police know Kira is from Japan. L also warns that once Kira is apprehended, he will be sentenced to death. Meanwhile, Light, who is watching from home, becomes terrified of the threats. However, he is powerless to intervene because L never shows his face to anyone. In the next scene, the police department appoints one of their best officers, Sachiko Yagami, as the case's lead investigator. Ironically, he is revealed to be Light's father. With the assistance of Elle, the police continue their investigation. They examine the overall timings of the deaths and discover that they correspond to the timetable of a college. As a result, they conclude that Kira is a college student who does not kill anyone during his classes. Light, who can easily hack into the police database, becomes aware of this information and begins to change his killing times. When the police catch wind of this, they suspect that their information is somehow being leaked to Kira. Later, as Light is walking alongside his new friend Ryuk, he realizes that an unfamiliar individual is tailing him. Ryuk reveals that the same person has been tailing him for 2 days. Hearing this, Light is puzzled as to why Ryuk didn't alert him sooner, and the latter clarifies that he is neutral. He supports neither Light nor the police. The statement scares Light, and he decides to be more cautious from now on. One day, Light and his best friend Shiori board a bus, and the unknown guy follows them. Enraged, he confronts the individual, but the person feigns ignorance. A few moments later, a guy suddenly gets up from his seat and takes the passengers hostage. It is revealed that he is a wanted criminal who has just escaped from prison. Light wants to help, but since he doesn't know the criminal's name, he simply writes on a piece of paper that he is about to do something. When the unknown follower notices this, he attempts to stop Light, warning him of the potential danger. He also introduces himself as an FBI agent named Rei Iwamatsu. Their conversation is cut short. The criminal approaches them and snatches the piece of paper from Light, which is a torn portion of the death note. As soon as the criminal holds the paper, Ryuk becomes visible to him. The sight of the frightening monster causes the criminal to panic, because of which he runs out of the bus. Unfortunately, he is struck and killed by a fast-moving vehicle. Meanwhile, we get to know that the FBI agent Rei had been tailing Light because the whole police department suspects Sachiko of divulging information to his son. Now, with Rei's identity and appearance known to him, Light aims to clear him from his way. However, Ryuk warns that he will be the prime suspect if he does so. To clear any suspicion towards himself, Light decides to collect the names of all the undercover FBI agents connected to the case. For this, he summons Rei to the subway and communicates with him through a transmitter. Light blackmails Rei into inscribing the names of all the FBI agents on a piece of paper, threatening to murder innocent passengers on the train if he doesn't comply. Rei has no other alternative but to cooperate. Subsequently, he views the images of all the agents in his database, and Light inscribes their names on the death note. As a result, all the FBI agents involved in the case die out of chest pain. As his work gets done, Light heartlessly kills Rei as well. The latter's fiancé happens to be on the same railway platform, and when she notices Rei collapsing, she rushes to help him, but it's too late. Later, at the police station, Light's dad Sachiko makes an announcement informing the team that their lives are in danger because Kira has begun killing non-criminals. As a result, he allows team members to withdraw from the case if they are afraid of being killed. After hearing this, everyone except 6 officers leave the room. The 6 of them demand that Elle reveal his true identity before proceeding with the investigation. In the next scene, they arrive at Elle's apartment and learn that he is just a young boy. However, he is extremely intelligent, which makes him stand out to the rest of the officers. Elle appears to have deduced that Kira can manipulate the cause of death, so he advises the team to use fake names to avoid being targeted by Kira. Together, they begin working to capture the murderer as soon as possible. Elsewhere, Rei's fiancée, Naomi, is devastated by Rei's death. She is revealed to be a former FBI agent who previously worked for Elle. She is now determined to find her fiancé's murderer and exact vengeance. Meanwhile, Elle discovers Rei's death video, in which he notices Rei pointing at someone just before he dies. Thinking that he has found the culprit, he calls Sachiko and the team to inform them. Elle then shows them photographs of the possible suspects, one of whom is Light. As a result, he wants Sachiko's family to be constantly monitored. On the other hand, Light starts scheduling deaths a week in advance and tells Ryuk that the mission must continue, even if something happens to him. The following day, Naomi confronts Light with suspicion while he is at college. He recognizes her from the railway platform but denies knowing anything about Rei's death. Despite his refusal, Naomi suspects him and claims that he is the one who used the bus jack to learn of Rei's identity. Realizing that he has been exposed, Light quickly writes her name on a piece of death note, but Naomi reveals that he can't kill her because she gave him a false name. Before leaving, she vows to track down Kira and will not stop until he is in prison. Later that night, Light returns home and notices an unusual smell, which makes him suspicious that someone has entered his room without his knowledge. He then informs Ryuk that his room has been bugged with cameras and listening devices. His hunch turns out to be correct, as Elle and the cops are constantly watching him inside his room. After finding nothing fishy for the first few days, Sachiko becomes assured that his son is innocent. However, Elle insists on continuing the surveillance because no deaths have been reported while monitoring Light. On the 7th day of surveillance, Light is seen having dinner with his family. Once he is done, he returns to his room, locks the door, and unwraps a packet of chips. Munching on them, he studies, pretending to be unaware of the surveillance. Suddenly, there is news that a new criminal has been apprehended, and he dies soon after from a heart attack. When the agents learn of this, they declare that Light is no longer a suspect, but Elle still has suspicions. However, he orders his assistant to remove all the cameras and bugs from Light's room. Unbeknownst to them, Light had hidden the death note inside the bag of chips, and he covertly wrote the criminal's name to free him from the allegations. One day, Shiori calls Light and proposes they meet at an art gallery, to which he happily agrees. During the call, however, he suspects something is amiss, because her voice sounds strange. In reality, Naomi has taken Shiori hostage and is using her to lure Light to the meeting place. In the next scene, after Light arrives at the art gallery, he finds Naomi holding Shiori hostage. She angrily demands that he confess to being Kira. However, Light denies the allegations and begs her to release Shiori. In an attempt to make him confess, Naomi even reveals her real name and asks him to kill her. Meanwhile, Elle and the team are watching the incident unfold through CCTV cameras. Not long after, Naomi is distracted by police sirens outside, giving Shiori a chance to break free and run towards Light. But in a state of panic, she accidentally shoots the poor girl. As Shiori slowly succumbs to her injuries, she kisses Light and confesses her love for him. Then she passes away, leaving him distraught. Soon after, the police arrive at the crime scene, and before they can apprehend Naomi, she commits the unthinkable. The scene then flashes back to a few hours earlier, where Light learns of Naomi's true name from her wedding card. On his note, he then meticulously writes the entire plot of Naomi's death. At present, Light is approached by his father, who apologizes for not saving Shiori. The moment Sachiko leaves the scene, Ryuk arrives and asks if he ever expected to lose her. Light turns around with an evil grin, revealing that he was the one who actually plotted Shiori's death with Naomi. He explains that he orchestrated Shiori's death as part of his plan to make the authorities sympathize with him and remove him as a suspect. Ryuk looks upon him with disgust in his eyes and says that Light is a demon in human form. Just then, Elle shows up at the scene holding the same bag of chips that Light used to write the names of the criminals. He introduces himself to Light and invites him to join their team to catch Kira. The movie ends as the two stare at each other menacingly.